to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and the Philadelphia Union avoid a 3-game losing streak, which would have been their first in league play since 2017. They lost 3 straight games in 2021, losing 2 league games, and then they lost the second leg at home to Club America and the CONCACAF Champions League. And the Union come from behind yet again on the road to get a 2-2 draw against DC United. And only Vancouver and the Philadelphia Union are the only teams in MLS that haven't lost yet on the road. And something has to be said, and credit has to be given, in my opinion, to the Union for, playing hard on the road. 2 wins, 0 losses, 3 draws. Over on the Western Conference, you have the Vancouver Whitecaps, who have 3 wins. They've only played 3 road games this season, but all 3 of those road games they have wins in. And this team is, I don't know. I mean, I think through 10 games, I think we've learned a lot about what kind of team the Union are. I think we haven't learned anything different than what we know in the last 5 years. I mean, we all know that this is essentially the same team, and this team has heart, this team has grit, and they're going to give it everything that they have. And I think you look at the way that they're conceding goals is kind of uncharacteristic, and Jim Curtin talked about that after Seattle, I believe it was, that it's just really, really simple goals they're giving up right now. And yes, these mistakes are correctable, but through 10 games this season, the Union haven't been able to stop conceding first. And of course, we'll talk about that once again, but I don't know. I mean, do you guys feel different about this team than you did a few weeks ago? I think maybe some of you, if the Union would have lost 3 in a row with a loss to DC, I think a lot of people on social media, I think their world would have been crumbling. I don't know about you guys, the listeners. I think you guys are a lot more intelligent than some of the takes on Twitter specifically. And don't get me started on Union Reddit or Facebook. But you guys are definitely smarter than those guys, 100%. And if you guys do participate in those Facebook discussions or Reddit discussions, don't tell anybody. But we'll talk about this DC United game. We'll talk about my 3 stars on the night. We have 3 clips lined up from Jim Curtin's post-game press conference. We have some news, all Union news to get to. And, with the transfer window being closed now in MLS, this time of the year, you don't get too much MLS news. And so I have a feeling, hopefully, the news segment stays pretty quiet here the next couple of weeks. The only news that we may get will be Philadelphia Union news. But come the summertime, we'll definitely pick back up on all the different transfers, or, if there looks like there's going to be a move that's going to be made official in the summertime. Of course, we'll talk about it, but don't have a lot of news to get to, but let's get straight into it. All right, starting off, we're talking about the Philadelphia Union prior to their match against DC United. They announced the signing of Andrew Rick to a homegrown contract. Andrew is signed through 2028 with an option for the 2029 season. And so we knew with Andre Blake being unavailable for this game because of his knee injury that he suffered against Real Salt Lake, we knew that the Union had to give Andrew Rick a first-team contract because they'd called him up 4 times, and a 5th call-up, well, you can't do that. You got to give them a contract. And so the Union were out of options with Andrew Rick, and now he's signed as a homegrown player. And I don't want it to seem like, well, the only reason he got a homegrown contract was because of Andre Blake's injury. I think, if anything, that moved the process along faster than what the Union would have given Andrew. But this kid deserved it and Ernst Tenner said as much in the press release. They've been very, very impressed with his development, doing a fantastic job with Union 2. Kept a clean sheet this weekend against Huntsville, I believe Union 2 played. I should probably look that up, but I believe it was Huntsville. One of you guys can correct me. Through 27 appearances with Union 2, Andrew Rick has 83 saves. I think he's allowing just about a goal a game with Union 2. It was at like 1.17, and then with the clean sheet this weekend against Huntsville, yep, I was right, that numbers went down even further. So Andrew Rick, only 18 years old, Maryland born. So you guys know how I feel about any player that plays for the Philadelphia Union that's from Maryland, already up there on the top of one of my favorite players. And so you'd love to see it. I mean, we don't expect Andrew to play consistently for the Union anytime soon with Andre Blake, with Oliver Zemla. But, you have that insurance that you have a backup goalkeeper on the bench now with Andre Blake just seemingly not being able to be healthy this season. And we know Holden Trent's been out hurt with that finger injury. We'll see when he returns with his team. But one thing we do know is the Union are going to have 4 goalkeepers on the roster, which doesn't seem ideal. And you got to imagine come the offseason, the Union will probably make moves to make sure that they don't have 4 goalkeepers on the roster going forward. But as things stand, that's what the roster looks like with Union, 4 goalkeepers on there, with Andrew Rick being the latest player to sign a homegrown contract. And then we saw on April 29th that the Union had signed David Vazquez to a homegrown contract. David signed through 2027 with an option for 2028. And so we know that just like Andrew Rick, both players sign a Union 2 contract first, and now they've both signed homegrown contracts. And I think this is actually pretty smart for the Union, where they can tell kids in Union 2, hey, look, this is the way we do it. You're going to sign for the second team, and then you eventually get a homegrown contract, if you impress enough with Union 2. And so, in terms of Union 2's better players, and David Vazquez, an attacking midfielder, and Andrew Rick, a goalkeeper, both of them get homegrown contracts within the last week or so, and both deserving of this contract. Don't let that not be the case, like I said, with Andrew Rick. He was more than deserving. David Vazquez, more than deserving. Both of them have been standout players in the academy with Union 2, and they're just continuing to get rewarded with their hard work. And the sky's the limit for both of these players, and you love to see just players coming through the academy, all the hard work that those players put in, all the hard work that the coaches put in, all the hard work that the families put in to get their kids here in this point in their career. It's well deserved for all involved. And since we're talking about rosters and whatnot, MLS did all of us a solid, whether it be media members, whether it be fans, whether it be coaches, whether it be front offices. MLS, for the first time ever, released roster profiles. And this is huge because we got to see what players on every single roster are designated as. So whether you're a TAM player, whether you're a designated player, whether you're a U22 initiative player, we got to see the current status with them being out on loan, etc. Got to see how long contracts they're through for, which is huge for everybody because, you think something just so simple, like we know about how long contracts for in the NFL, for MLB, for NBA, etc. It's just common knowledge. For whatever reason, MLS just lacked that transparency forever. And we also got option years. And so this is just really good because, to the Union's credit, they were one of the better teams in MLS where anytime they signed a player, whether that be to a homegrown contract, whether that be to just a player that they signed from overseas, or whether it be a free agent that they sign, the Union would always announce how long the deal's good for, and then the option years. And they would also indicate, are they taking up an international roster spot? Are they not? And so it was pretty easy to piece together the Union's roster of how long players were signed for, what their option years are for. Are they an international player? Are they not? Are they TAM? Are they a DP? And so, to the Union's credit, they've been really, really, really good with releasing that information. But not all teams in MLS have been. And so, we get to see all 29 teams, roster profiles, how teams have put their rosters together. If you guys want to see salary information, you got to go to the MLSPA where they make all that information public. So, yeah, I mean, this all just seems like basic stuff, but just MLS has never been this transparent. And so, this is a huge win for everybody, fans, media, etc. Like I said. And if you guys are curious, Union, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, they traded away a 2024 international roster spot and a 2025 international roster spot to Nashville for GAM. And so the Union currently have technically 7 spots being used. Ty Baribo, Jesus Bueno, Macanya, Saunders, Ngabo, Richard Odada, Oliver Zemla, and Joaquin Torres. But because Richard Odada and Joaquin Torres are out on loan, the Union do get roster relief where those 2 players aren't counting towards their international roster slots being used because they're out on loan. So technically, the Union have 2 open spots. The Union's designated players are Julian Kranza, Daniel Gazdag, and Mikal Uor. All of us knew that already. Julian and Daniel can both be brought down. And if you guys don't know what I mean by that, that means that the Union could apply TAM to their contract. And TAM, for everybody who's wondering, yes, you got to love all these roster rules in MLS, but they got $2.4 million in TAM. You cannot trade TAM. You can't accumulate more. None of that. You get 2.4 million. That's it. And so this is just like funny money, just MLS terms that nobody else in the world uses. And so you can apply however much TAM you want to players' contracts to buy them down. And in this case, the Union could have bought down Julian Kranza and Daniel Gazdag, making them TAM players. But if you do that, you have to replace those 2 designated player spots with other designated players. And so right now, the Union's TAM players are Ty Baribo, who they're paying over $700,000 for, Andre Blake, Jack Elliott, Jacob Glesnes, and Kai Wagner. And so, I mean, if the Union really wanted to get flashy with their roster, yeah, sure. I mean, you would probably buy down Daniel Gazdag, and now you go out and you sign another designated player. And so it's technically like you have 4 designated players on your roster because Gazdag was a designated player, but now you're buying him down and replacing him with somebody else, and now you're just paying him higher than the $683,000 that it qualifies you for the maximum salary budget charge. But if you're getting paid TAM, those players can't make over $1.6 million. So it has to be between $683,000 and $1.6 million. I know, super confusing. And why can't MLS be a normal league? I know, but really good stuff. And if you guys want to check out all teams' roster profiles, how teams constructed their rosters, I'll leave a link in the show description. And love the transparency from the Union. But let's get into the DC United versus Philadelphia Union match. And I think, honestly, you got to ask yourself, is 2-2 the right result for the game? And, asking myself that, I actually don't think it is. I think DC United will feel a little hard done, like they should have had all 3 points. And if I'm being honest, I think DC United probably should have won this game if it wasn't for a goal of the year candidate goal from Jack McGlynn. But credit to the Union for fighting back and showing that fight. That was their 8th equalizing goal this season, tied with St. Louis and Inter Miami for the most in the league. And, like Jim Curtin said after the game, this team has heart. We saw the return to Leon Flock to the starting lineup for the first time this season. He was on the bench the last 2 games against Real Salt Lake and Seattle. He's fully recovered now from his pectoral injury. Leon's last appearance was November 8th last season in the second leg against New England. And so great to see Leon back on the field for the Union. We also saw the return of Damian Lowe back into the starting 11 as he's recovered from a ankle injury. We saw Alejandro Bedoya start his fourth MLS game this season, playing the full 90 minutes like he's done in every one of his starts this year in MLS play. We saw the Union come out in a formation that they used in Portland, the 4-4-2 flat formation. And that formation didn't work at all. The midfield and the defense I thought was just split open way too easily. Just DC United were just going through them just left and right, just able to play these line splitting passes, players just overloading the midfielders, the Union's midfielders not knowing who to track. And we actually saw that on the first goal that DC United scored with Dayome, which was excellent ball movement on the right-hand side of the field by DC United, and just so many players getting involved. And the more passes over there just move the Union midfield over on that side of the field, and the Union just couldn't close down the ball. So Kai Wagner comes out of position to close down the ball from Aaron Herrera, the right wing back for DC United. And because of that, then Damian Lowe has to slot out wide and track Jarrett Stroud. And Jarrett just plays a cutback pass to Dayome, and it's a goal for DC United. Just a really, really well worked goal. You can see what I'm talking about in the goals breakdown video. I'll leave a link in the description for that. Thank you, as always, for the people that check out those videos. But, when you look at that goal, it should have been Quinn Sullivan picking up the free runner at the back post, because you had Nate Harriel and Jacob Glesnes 1v1 defending in the 18-yard box of Christian Benteke and Jacob Merle, the two strikers for DC United in this game. And so those guys are marking who they're supposed to mark. But then because Damian Lowe shifts out of position, that means that the whole defensive shape now is out of position. And now you have guys who have to pick up the loose run. And so it should have been between Alejandro Bedoya, Quinn Sullivan. I do think that Dayome should have been picked up by Quinn Sullivan, and DC United capitalized early in the game. And then on the second goal, I mean, that's just inexcusable for me. All it took was 8 seconds from Alex Bono, the goalkeeper for DC United, to play a long ball up top to Christian Benteke. Benteke beats Damian Lowe to the header, and then the ball falls to Jarrett Stroud. He heads it down to Jacob Merle. Jacob Glesnes hesitates just a little bit, and Jacob's able to finish with a left-footed shot outside the box, and it's a composed finish. Really, really good strike from the Forest Hill, Maryland native. Again, always have a soft spot for players that are playing in the league from Maryland, whether they be Union players or not. But that play there just wasn't good enough by Jacob Glesnes. Just the little hesitation. We saw it against Olivier Bizo last Tuesday against Seattle. We see a hesitation here by Jacob Glesnes. And that's what's so special about professional soccer players. Just one mistake. All it takes is 1 second to mess up, and you're going to be punished for it. And I don't know. It's like you can watch high school soccer. You can even watch college soccer and watch mistakes happen, and they're not going to be punished all the time. But professional levels, as soon as you make that mistake, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be punished for it. And I think this was probably Jacob Glesnes' worst performance since that 6-0 defeat down in Mexico against Pachuca. And it's just simple things. It's simple things, Maybe if the Union closed down the ball quicker on the first goal. Maybe if the Union win the header against Christian Benteke, who's one of the best attackers in this league with winning 50-50 balls. But even if you don't win that header against Christian Benteke, it's like, man, just just keep the attacker in front of you. I'm talking about Jacob Merle here in this case. Don't let him cut. Don't give him space. And to his credit, he took advantage. He saw his window to shoot, and it was a fantastic finish. Nothing that Oliver Zemla could have done in the goal. It's nothing he could have done on either one of these goals. And you do feel bad for him that the Union just continued to concede with him in net. It's not like he's doing anything wrong. It's the defense and the midfield just aren't playing great for him. We saw him come out with 2 saves, I believe, against DC United. So, I mean, when he's called upon to save the Union, he normally does it. But, yeah, I mean, just Jacob Bless, it's not a great game for him, in my opinion. And then on the Union's 2 goals, you obviously get a really, really good set-piece goal from Bedoya. Great vision and ball played in by Wagner on the free kick. And that's exactly what the Union needed before the half. And they actually had another chance right before the whistle was blown, if you guys remember this. Nate Harriel wins the header inside the box, ball falls to Carranza, and his shot gets blocked. But watching that play, has there been a time this season that Nate Harriel hasn't won a header? I mean, I'm sure there is a time, but it feels like he's winning every single duel in the air. We know he's the Union's best jumper and sets up Julian Carranza perfectly. And my question to you guys is, when I was preparing my notes, just thinking after 10 games played in MLS, what players have impressed you? And for me, I think Nate Harriel's really making a case for him being the Union's best player so far this season. I think if I had to pick 3, it would be Jack McGlynn, Nate Harriel, Kai Wagner, Daniel Gazdag, 4, Alejandro Bedoya, 4. And Gazdag has been playing great. Carranza has had his moments, but we're now seeing him get cold, and that's been the case the last couple of years with Union strikers. They go on these really, really hot streaks, and then they go on these cold streaks, and we know how good Carranza is. He had plenty of chances this game, just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. It's not like the Union aren't creating for him. He's getting chances. He's just not able to put the ball in the back of the net. And, as a striker, that's what you get judged for, is how many goals you score. And we know how good Julian is off of the ball with his pressing and his link-up play and his runs. But when you're not putting the ball in the back of the net, fans start to panic a little bit, and people maybe start to judge you a little bit too harsh. We see it with Mikal Ua, who, by the way, Jim Curtin said the reason that he didn't start this game was for form, saying that he hasn't been in good form the last couple games. And I think that would be music to some of you guys who aren't fans of Mikal Ua, saying, yeah, he hasn't been good this season. But like I said, I'd be curious. I mean, let me know on social media who you think's been the Union's top 3 best players so far this season. Like I said, for me, McGlynn, Harriel, Wagner. And then 4, it could be a toss-up between Bedoya and Gazdag. And I can listen to you make a case for Julian Carranza there as well. But, yeah, I think my top 3 is definitely set there. I mean, the amount of chances that Kai Wagner has made this season for the Union, same with Jack McGlynn. He's got so much better defensively. And there's a reason why teams in Europe want him. There's a reason why he's going to the Olympics with the U.S. And don't be surprised if he has a good showing, or even if he doesn't have a good showing, don't be surprised if come the summertime, Jack McGlynn's not here anymore. Nate Harriel, again, going to the Olympics with the U.S. squad. Nothing's been official, but they've been called up the last couple camps. They continue to impress this season with the Union, and I can't see why either one of those guys wouldn't be called up. And then, like I said, Kai Wagner. So, I mean, let me know on social media who you guys think have been the Union's best 3 players this season. So we get to the break, and the Union are losing 2-1. And I thought at the first 15 minutes of the second half that the Union were really dominating. And Quinn Sullivan tries to chip Alex Bono, and it's a really good save by him. Unfortunate that the ball doesn't go in the back of the net. That definitely would have been up there with goal of the week. And we all know we'll talk about the McGlynn goal here in a second. But those 15 minutes, we saw DC United lose possession of the ball 7 times. The Union were winning in possession 64.3 to DC's 35.7. And we all know possession doesn't matter to the Union. Possession's an overrated stat. It's about what you do with the ball. And in those 15 minutes, the Union had DC pinned down in their own half, especially on the right-hand side. And I said to Skylar Hoffner and Kyle Almany in the press box, I said, if the Union don't get a goal within this time frame, I see a hard time for the Union scoring the rest of the game then. Because DC United, they were sweating a little bit. The Union were bringing so much pressure in those first 15 minutes of the second half. The right side of the field, the Union decided to throw a lot of overloads over there. And something that I noticed is the Union kept pushing Nate Harriel up higher on the right side of the field. Bedoya would drop in as a right back. Occasionally, you'd see Bedoya right behind Nate Harriel, which would then switch the Union to playing a back three with Wagner, Lowe, and Glesnes. You would see Jack McGlynn fill in as center defensive midfield. And the Union just couldn't take advantage of those 15 minutes in the second half against DC United. Only one shot within those 15 minutes. And just felt like a huge wasted opportunity for the Union. And then you get to the Jack McGlynn goal. And first off, it's a beautiful ball by Jose Martinez out to Bedoya. Great hustle by LA to keep the ball in play. But that's exactly what Jose Martinez offers you. He offers you that range of passing, something that Leon Flock, no offense to him, can't play, or at least he's not asked to play that kind of pass. Maybe he can, we just haven't seen it because he's always playing it safe and conservative, and I think that's why a lot of you fans don't appreciate what Leon Flock brings to this team. You always see him playing square and backwards, and yeah, it's a little bit cowardly way to play the game, but you know, if you're not a great passer of the ball, you want to get your more creative players on the ball, then I have no issue with it whatsoever. But we see this beautiful ball out by Jose Martinez to the right side of the field to Alejandro, and you know, yeah, people make jokes about Alejandro's age and blah, 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 blah. But you see the hustle on that play to keep this ball in play. And the Union tried to cross it with Harriel and Bedoya. Nothing won. So they reset the ball back to Jack McGlynn. And credit to DC United. I showed this in the goals breakdown video. They're playing a low block, a block of 4, and then a block of 3. And Jack McGlynn doesn't have a huge area to strike this ball. And he sees the window, his one window where he can place this ball. And the movement is unlike anything that I've ever seen. And I don't know if I'll see a better goal in person because you saw the rain off of this ball just all fall off in the perfect place. It all just came crashing down the rain at the right time with the movement in the air. You saw the ball go right and then it went left, that top corner. It's a beautifully hit ball by Jack McGlynn, and it's back-to-back weeks now that he scored goals outside the 18-yard box. The only 2 goals the Union have so far from that position in the field. But you knew it would take something special for the Union to get a point against DC United because the further this game went on, they weren't giving the Union any opportunities. And it took a potential goal of the year candidate there by Jack McGlynn to get a point for the Union. And by the way, I want to make sure I don't have this lost or that I remember to bring it up. Julian Kranza will be suspended against Orlando City because of yellow card accumulation. Picked up his 5th yellow card because of him elbowing Matthias Klitsch in the 18-yard box on a Union corner kick. He got warned the first time. Second time he did it again. He got a yellow card. And so no Julian Kranza this weekend against Orlando City. It's a huge blow there for the Union, even with Julian not scoring the last couple games. But I wanted to make sure that I had that in there before we move on to, yes, back-to-back to back weeks now. It's been what? I was talking about the Union continuing to concede first. And so I asked Jim Curtin after the game, we asked Jacob Glesnes this, what's wrong? Why do you guys keep conceding first? How do you guys fix it? And this is what Jim Curtin had to say.
Yeah, look, I almost need to stop talking about it because it keeps happening, right? So it's one of those things where we speak after every game about it and starting good, and we dig holes for ourselves, which is at the highest levels is hard. It takes a lot of energy to chase a game. It takes physically and emotionally a lot. So when you get behind 2 goals on the road, the one thing this group has is certainly heart. We show a ton of character to come back. But I think we all know we play better, on the front foot and with a lead. So it's been a hard week, right? We lost 2 tough games at home. With I thought an okay performance against Salt Lake, a game that could go either way against a good team. Seattle, like I said, inexcusable first half. I apologized already for the fans for that. Second half, us looked like us. This one again, first half not great, obviously, but show a real response. So it's in us. We know we have it. You guys again know who can get us out of trouble and can win us a game. And for Jack to make a play like that, for a young player to step up, it takes a lot of heart and a lot of guts. But we have to find a way now to play with a lead. That's what we're built to do. And I think there's something to back to Jonathan's comment. The continuity isn't quite there when it's not the same team on the field. And what we've been lucky with, guys, and this is a fact, if you go back and look at it, we are the healthiest team in this league over the last 5 years, and it is not even close. So the same guys play together all the time. They know each other. They understand each other. And that's how we've been able to be consistent, cohesive, whatever word you want to use. And this year, in the goal, it's changed a bit, and Oliver's done a good job, but it's still, sometimes for half a game, Andre has to leave, and that's not easy. There's not the cohesion that we've had as a group. So we'll work on it. I think we still have a really good, strong group, and yeah.
And that's exactly why we've said last season that we feel confident in the Union going for it one more time, because we saw what they did in 2022. We're like, all right, they're running the same group back. They have chemistry with each other. It's nothing different that these guys aren't used to. They're all used to the runs. They know how to play with each other. We see what happens in 2023. And then the Union decide to run it back yet again, and you start to panic a little bit. But something has to be said with, because this group's been playing with each other for definitely the last 3 years, most of the squad the last 4 years, some of them the last 5. These players, like Jim said, what players are going to win us games. What players are going to tie us games. These players know that. And when you need to get your good players on the ball, the Union find a way to get their good players on the ball. But man, they are making it hard on themselves this season, conceding first in 7 out of 10 games so far. Last year, they did it in 15 and 34 games. And we're already at 7. They did it 15 times last season. 7 times so far this season. It's just, it's not good. And I know Jim said, we've had injury issues this season, and we've seen rotation with the center backs. And now this week against Orlando City, Julian's not going to be out there. Mikael Uhre hasn't been in the greatest form, so he's not starting week in, week out like he was at the beginning of the season. And there's a whole bunch of excuses you can make for why the Union are conceding first, why they're conceding early, what have you. And it's a trend. It's an issue through 10 games. And look, if you take the stats, 7 out of 10 games, 10 more games, that's 14 out of 20 games. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. 21 out of 30 games if you keep following that pattern. And the Union aren't going to be in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference if they continue to concede first. This team's good, but they're not good enough to play from behind all the time. DC United's a decent team. They're not great. They're not amazing. Nashville's not a great team, and the Union come back in that game. Atlanta, a decent team, I would say, and the Union come back in that game. Probably should have won that game. Real Salt Lake, I would still say, is the hardest team the Union have faced this season. Give up a goal in that game in the first half. Union get a equalizing goal, and then they give up a goal in the 89th minute. And, there's just moments where this team plays good. There's really, really good moments. Like I said, there's 15 minutes, the first 15 minutes in the second half. The Union were dominating, but yet they were only able to get one shot. And that was the chance from 30 yards out trying to chip Bono, Quinn Sullivan did. And that's a credit to the low block that DC United was creating. But I don't know. I don't know if this is going to continue, how long it's going to continue for. I do believe it is going to continue, right? Conceding first, but how long? That's the question. This week against Orlando City, they sit in 14th place, I believe it is, in MLS. The Union can't concede first again. They can't. Yeah, 14th place. 2 wins, 5 losses, 3 draws for Orlando City, 9 points. And Jim's right. Maybe you shouldn't talk about it anymore. Maybe we shouldn't talk about it anymore on the podcast, and maybe it stops. Maybe that's the recipe to this streak ending. But I will say, if the Union don't concede first against Orlando City, I don't think everything's fine. I don't think, okay, well, we can move on and not talk about this anymore. I think, no, let's continue to see what happens the next couple weeks. Because after Orlando City, then the Union play New York City Wednesday night at home. And then the next 2 games are on the road at New England, at Charlotte. And so let's see what happens these next 4 games. Let's see, do the Union continue to concede first? If they do, bad things happen. Bad things happen. And New York City started the season really slow, and people were calling for Nick Cushing's job. And they're tied with Union on points. Yes, they've played 1 more game than the Union. They have a record of 4-5-2. But it's going to be a tough game on Wednesday. But you got to focus on this game Saturday against Orlando City. But yeah, you got to stop conceding first. And I talked about it a little bit with Alejandro Bedoya just scoring a great goal off of a set piece by the Union. That was the Union's 8th set piece goal of the season. And Jim Curtin talked about, what players have improved this season, what Alejandro Bedoya means to this team. Bedoya potentially one of the Union's best players so far this season.
You know who our key guys are. They're the same guys that have been here for the last several seasons. I think you've seen Quinn take steps like I talked about. McGlynn is improving. Nathan's doing great. But you look out there and, Bedoya is one of our best players still, and this isn't a disrespect to him at his age. It shouldn't be that way. He's still dominating games in MLS. So that's maybe a league thing, but, look, we still have a really strong group. I still feel we can beat any team. So when you say it's stale, I'd say we are the same. I think you guys know that. I still think on our day when we're on, we can beat anybody, and the team has a lot of character and heart, but the names are the same. We've had good runs of form, some tough moments. We miss and Andre Oliver's doing well, but I think we miss him too. But you guys know who we have, and I'll still take this group over anybody. I still pick my guys and told them at halftime, I think we're better in every position, and I'll believe that until we're completely proven otherwise. So I wish we had a couple more wins on the board, absolutely. But at the same time, it's going to be a grind. You guys know how hard the league is, and I still believe strongly that this team can win.
And I talked about that last week too, where I said, how many teams in MLS have a better starting 11 than the Union. Columbus, Inter Miami for sure. Cincinnati, maybe? I mean, just starting 11 wise, Union on paper have one of the best starting 11s in MLS. And that's what makes you just believe in the squad. And yeah, there's a lot of issues early on. Yes, conceding goals is an issue. Yes, your striker is going through rough patches of not scoring goals, and then they score for a couple games and then they go back to not scoring. But because this team has proved that they can dominate teams in MLS in the past, that's what makes you believe in this squad. And like you heard Jim Curtin say, this isn't a disrespect to Alejandro Bedoya. Maybe it's a talking point about where the league's at, with Bedoya still being one of the Union's best players, and he had a phenomenal game. I look, just because you're a certain age doesn't take away your soccer IQ. Bedoya proves with that run on his goal that he has one of the best soccer brains on the team to make that run across the box, and then Kai Wagner to pick out the run and to play that threaded through ball. It's a really good connection there. And again, that goes back to because this team's been together. Kai Wagner, Alejandro Bedoya have been playing with each other since 2019. They've been on the same team since 2019. And they have that chemistry. And they know what kind of runs each other are going to make. They know when to play the ball. And that was a great execution of a set piece there. The 8th for the Union this season, the most in the league. And it just makes you think, if the Union could continue just to score goals off of set pieces, if they could get more goals, consistent goals from open play, they'd be right back up there with some of the best teams in MLS. But they've got a huge defending issue through 10 games. Continue to concede goals. But this is a stat I meant to share with you guys last episode, because at the time we'd only played 9 games and now we're at 10. Through 9 games, the Union have scored the most goals that they've ever scored in the league with 17. Now they're up at 19 with 10 games played. In 2022, we all love 2022. Through the first 9 games, the Union had only scored 13 goals. And the Union have currently scored in all 10 games so far this season. The only team in MLS to do that. Back in 2022, the Union did that in 11 straight games to start the year. And their record was 5 wins, 1 loss, 3 draws during the first 9. And through 11, they were 5-1-5. And so, yeah, the Union have 2 losses so far this season. But they had a lot of draws through the first 11 games. Can this team reach the heights of 2022? Maybe. We've seen them do it once, but I think, a lot of things fell in place. A lot of guys had career years where they might not ever have it again. And another thing that I found interesting too, just looking at the first 9 games for the Union throughout their history, back in 2013, they scored 13 goals in their first 9 games, but they scored in 17 of 18 games. 17 of the first 18 games, they scored a goal in. And through 18 games, they were 7-5-6. And those were some god-awful Union teams between 2013, 2014, 2015. And to score in 17 out of your 18 first games, I mean, it's pretty impressive. And yeah, it I guess doesn't mean much when you look at the history of this club where, yeah, you want to score goals, you got to score goals to win, but they were just conceding way too many goals. And that's exactly what's happening with this squad right now. And it's like the complete opposite. What normally happens with this group, it takes them a while to get the strikers rolling, to get just this team scoring in general. Yeah, they've been really solid the last 4 years, 5 years defensively, but it's the opposite. Now they're struggling to defend. They're scoring a lot of goals, which is great. Everybody loves goals, but this team's built on defense. And so we'll see what happens. And The last clip that I'll play is just Jim Curtin on Jack McGlynn.
Yeah, again, the guy sitting next to you talked about shooting from distance and what that does to a defense. It makes guys step out, and we've encouraged Jack because of his technique being so good to shoot more, shoot more, shoot more. He's always sometimes in his backswing, you can see him. He'll change his mind and try and slip a through ball or play a nice pass out to Kai. Sometimes the best thing is to shoot, and you guys see his technique. You know, to score a goal a year outside the box is hard in this league, and he's got, you know, 2 in back-to-back games that were both really, really good strikes. So you can't teach that. It's up to him and his actually his dad who's taught him that technique and that repetition in the backyard. So yeah, really impressive goal. Again, you don't want to say goal of the year yet because you don't know what's going to happen over the next several months, but for my money, you can't score a much better one. And in the moment, it's not like he's scoring that goal when it's 3-1 us or we're down and it's a meaningless goal. We're down a couple goals. It's a goal that, you know, gets you a point on the road when you really need one. So when you talk about Jack, again, sky's the limit. We'll do a good job, I think, with our Olympic team. And then, you know, from there is taking a big step forward this season with him, Quinn, and I think Harriel. You know, the steps that they're taking are really good. So we're still developing guys. They're getting better and better. And the core group of guys are still doing a good job too. I wish we could win every game, but it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard to win. And that's look, Jim talked about Quinn, Jack, and Nate, and all 3 of those guys potentially going away for the U.S. at the Olympics. Jesus Bueno, Jose Martinez, both of them potentially going away for Copa America. You have Damian Lowe, Andre Blake definitely going away for Copa America. Daniel Gazag more than likely going away for the Euros with Hungary. This team's going to be missing a lot of players, a lot of key players. And that's the frustrating thing with not getting wins at home against Real Salt Lake or Seattle, only getting a point against DC United, because points are going to be hard to come by in the summertime when this team's missing a lot of players. But yeah, Jack McGlynn, the strike, the strike, and what more can I say about it? I mean, you heard Jim Curtin talk about the technique, and I do got to give credit to Jonathan Tannenwald, where he's been telling people for a while that, yeah, enjoy Jack McGlynn while you have it. This is a special talent. He had 8 different pieces since 2021 that just featured Jack McGlynn. And I do believe that Jack McGlynn, I know, I said about Julian Kranz, I said about Kai Wagner, and it's like, well, I'm not going to believe you anymore, Todd, because if you say Jack McGlynn's gone, he's definitely staying because you've been wrong about those players. But I don't know. I mean, they should have been gone when I said they were gone, but the Union turned down offers, and I guess in the Kai situation, the offers never came that the Union thought would come. But when you're scoring goals like Jack McGlynn has the last 2 games now, you're 20 years old, you have your whole career in front of you, more than likely you're going away with the Olympic team. If you have a great showing at the Olympics, or even if you don't, teams are still going to be interested in you. But if you have a great showing at the Olympics, many more teams are going to be in on you, and that's going to start a bidding war for the Union. And I have a hard time believing that Jack McGlynn's going to be here past the summertime for the Union. I really do. And we're seeing him play his best soccer of his career, defensively and offensively. We know what he can do with the left foot. He can find a pass before most people see the pass. And now he's adding goals to his game. And it's a world-class goal. It's a goal that you don't see often. The way that ball moved in the air from that distance, and like Jim Curtin said, in that moment too, that's a big moment because the Union really weren't creating a ton of chances. DC United made it hard for the Union in this game. Only one more chance for the Union after that Jack McGlynn goal, and it was a huge missed opportunity by Mikal Ua. But in the second half, you had that Quinn Sullivan chip, a Julian Kranz shot that was blocked. You had the goal by Jack McGlynn, and then the missed chance by Mikal Ua. Only 4 chances in the second half. Only 4 chances by the Union. And to the credit, to Jack McGlynn's credit, he rescues a point for the Union. And it's a huge point for the Union on the road. So let's go ahead and end the episode with 3 stars and then blunder of the week. So number 3 on the night, Kai Wagner, 1 assist, 3 chances created, 2 out of 4 tackles won, 2 interceptions, 9 ball recoveries, dribbled by 2 times. So not the best defending by Kai on the night. And then 4 out of 6 ground duels won. Alejandro Bedoya was star number 2 for me. 1 goal, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 2 interceptions, 5 ball recoveries, 3 out of 5 ground duels won. And then Jack McGlynn, 1 goal, 1 chance created, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 1 interception, 12 ball recoveries, 5 out of 7 ground duels won. I mean, that tells you right there everything you need to know. 2 out of 2 tackles won, 1 interception, 12 ball recoveries. Jack McGlynn has improved tremendously defensively. And you add goals to your game, well, you're going to be one expensive midfielder in the future. One expensive midfielder. But blunder of the week. And so, blunder of the week should be no surprise. I had a lot of people nominate this on Tuesday. Said, yep, this is blunder of the week. And I was like, whoa, wait. The week's not over yet. But blunder of the week's going to go to the first goal that the Union gave up against Seattle. The horrible touch by Jose Martinez. He receives the pass back by Daniel Gazdag. Takes a bad touch, hesitates, and then Raul Ruidiaz pounces on the loose ball.
Yeah, not good.
And it's just, we don't have to talk about that anymore, but there was just a horrible play, and I gave Jose Martinez great credit for the ball that he played out for Alejandro Bedoya on Jack McGlynn's goal. But then a silly moment like that last week against Seattle, it's like, man, you're a great defender. You're one of this team's best players. And when this team lost to Real Salt Lake, you cannot be starting out slow like that against Real Salt Lake at home. You can't be starting slow against Seattle at home. And it's a big mess up there by Jose Martinez, and it's going to be blunder of the week for me. But before I tell you guys where to find me on social media and all that jazz, Jose Nunez, friend of the show, had a terrific piece out. He had a future piece. He interviewed Anton Sorensen, now with Charlotte Independence, former Philadelphia Union homegrown player. Jose went down to Charlotte a couple weeks ago and was able to talk with the coaching staff, the front office, talk with Anton and some of the other players. And it's a terrific piece, a terrific feature that Jose had on Anton. He has some video in there, and then I believe it's over 1,600 words. So it's a really, really good article. And I made a comment on social media and said, look, there's just another example that not all players' pathways are the same. And Anton's another example of that. Look, this guy was highly sought after by the Union. They brought him in from Michigan. Was one of their more touted prospects in the academy. And when you have Kai Wagner there, when you have Matt Real there, man, it's really hard to break into the first team. And the Union decided not to pick up his option this season. And he decided to go to Charlotte Independence. And look, it doesn't matter where you go, you know, it matters where you're going to develop your best. And Anton's 21 years old. He's got a long career ahead of him. And do I believe that USL League One's going to be his final spot? No, I don't. But, you know, if he impresses this year, and I'll say another year, who's to say that he's not back in MLS? You know, this is a player that came through the Union's academy, and, you know, that's going to do wonders for your career. Having that on your resume helps you out tremendously. And so if he can correct some things, continue to get first team minutes, professional minutes, I don't see why this kid can't be back in MLS within 2-3 years. So I just wanted to plug that real quick. It's going to be in the show description for you guys to check out. But If you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcasts of The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube account, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod. I appreciate all the new subscribers, all you guys that have been subscribing the last couple of days. It means a lot to me, guys, that you guys take time out of your day to watch those videos. Also means a lot that you guys read my work on Substack, thefreekick.com/substack.com. Means a lot that you guys listen to the podcast. And like I said, last episode, I think it was just a lot of content from myself, from Jose Nunez, from Mike Barrera, and the rest of the guys at AAT Sports, Kyle and Jillian Omni, with the One Team We Agree On, and just so many other people that do fabulous work with covering the Union. Jimmy King, Skylar Hoffner, just the list goes on and on and on. And it's a great time to be following this team and just all the coverage. It's really enjoyable just checking out everybody else's work. But we'll be back for a Orlando City review episode on Monday of next week, I believe. That episode will release. I know I took the order out of hand this week. I decided to write an article first, then goals breakdown, and then the podcast last, where it's normally been podcast, goals breakdown, article. So yeah, I think we'll switch it back up to the podcast first, videos, and then article. But you guys let me know what format you guys like first. Maybe you guys say, yeah, you got to do all three in one day, Todd. That's what we expect out of you. Maybe we do. But with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.